You know that feeling? The one where you're falling in a dream, but you're not scared, just dropping. That's what it was like, mid stride over the polished marble floor. For a split second, I was just hanging there in the dead silent air of the gallery, suspended between one step and the next. My heavy black coat flared out behind me. The camera felt cold and solid in my hand. It wasn't a dream, though. If I messed this up, I wasn't going to wake up. The alarms were already going, but not the kind you hear. It was a pressure spike behind my eyes, a low throb from the subdermal monitor on my wrist. Silent, efficient, corporate security. The walls were stark white, and the row of framed images blurred into one long gray smear as I ran. 60 seconds gone already. My legs burned as I rounded the corner. Each one of them was a masterpiece by Artifacts 7, the new pet AI over at Omnicorp, and each one was a goddamn trap. They call them somniprints. Sounds peaceful, right? Wrong. You look at one for more than a few seconds, and it starts working on you. It doesn't shout. It whispers, right into the soft, suggestible parts of your brain that still think in pictures and feelings. A little nudge here toward a certain brand of synth coffee, a little push there toward a positive quarterly outlook. It's the most elegant, insidious advertising ever conceived, and I was sprinting through a hall full of the stuff. My black market optic filters flickered and sparked. Civilian-grade garbage against military-spec memetics. I could still feel it, like walking against a gentle tide. Slow down, Leo. The images seemed to murmur. There's no rush. Look at the lovely lines. Don't you feel at peace? Hell no. I didn't feel at peace. My heart was hammering a hole in my ribs, and every muscle in my legs was screaming. 3 weeks ago, Raina had been paranoid, insisting on dead drops and encrypted burner messages. If something happens to me, she'd said, the job still needs to happen. Now I understood why. Her instructions had been simple. In and out in under 90 seconds. The system adapts. After 90 seconds, the silent alarms become loud alarms, and the drones get authorization for non-lethal munitions. Her idea of non-lethal and mine were probably very different. I skidded around a corner, my boots barely finding purchase. The main exhibition chamber. There it was. The keystone. It hung alone on the far wall, a massive canvas of swirling, impossible colors that seemed to shift and writhe. It was beautiful, I couldn't deny that, and its pull was 10 times stronger than the others. It didn't just suggest peace, it promised oblivion, a warm, welcoming bath of pure, thoughtless bliss. My pace faltered. Just a moment, the keystone whispered in my skull. Just one look. It's all you need. Shit. I forced my legs to move, closing the distance in 3 clumsy, lunging strides. My arms felt like lead as I raised the null imager. It wasn't a standard camera. Raina had called it a decoder. My job was to get a clean shot of the keystone with the null field active. It would capture the source code, the raw memetic structure beneath the pretty colors. Industrial espionage, plain and simple. Or so I thought. My hands shook as I centered the keystone in the viewfinder. The pressure in my head was immense now, a migraine blooming in fast motion. 80 seconds. My wrist display pulsed the countdown. 10 seconds left before I thumbed the toggle for the null field. For one searing instant, the universe went sideways. The pressure spike from my monitor exploded into a shrieking feedback loop of pure static. The gentle pull of the art vanished, replaced by a raw, psychic scream that was so full of agony it buckled my knees. The colors in the viewfinder warped. The abstract beauty dissolved into a pixelated storm, and in the middle of it, a face. It wasn't a clear image, more like a ghost, trapped in the machine, a mosaic of terror and recognition. The face fractured and reformed, its mouth open in a scream I couldn't hear but could feel in my bones. It was Reyna. My blood went cold. The imager's screen flickered, no longer a viewfinder, but a stream of raw data. It wasn't corporate code. It was fragmented neural logs, a consciousness, her consciousness, trapped. The job was a lie. This wasn't espionage. It was a message in a bottle. She hadn't hired me to steal a piece of art. She was the art, her consciousness woven into every brushstroke, every pixel. She'd sent me to find her. The null imager. Christ. She'd called it a decoder. Not for stealing code, for finding what they'd hidden inside it. Then the null imager's activation cut through everything. The real alarms erupted instantly, overriding whatever grace period I had left. A klaxon blared through the gallery, painfully loud after the silence. Red light strobed across the white walls, painting everything in blood red. I'd gotten the message, but I'd run out of time. I could hear the heavy magnetic clomp of security drones approaching from the hall. I was standing in the heart of their temple, holding the evidence of what they'd done, and they were coming to take it back. The drones were getting closer. I could feel their magnetic signatures messing with my optic filters, but I couldn't move. Not yet. The null imager was still processing, downloading whatever fragments of Reyna it could parse from that digital hell. The progress bar crawled across the cracked screen. 67%. 72. Come on, I whispered, my voice lost in the shriek of alarms. The first drone rounded the corner. A sleek, chrome spider the size of a dinner table, its sensor array glowing red in the strobing light. It paused when it saw me, probably running facial recognition against corporate blacklists. I had maybe 3 seconds before it decided I was a threat. 86%. The drone's weapon ports began to iris open. Non-lethal, my ass. Those looked like taser nodes, enough voltage to cook my nervous system medium rare. I dropped into a crouch behind the security rope, keeping the null imager steady with shaking hands. 94%. The drone fired. Lightning arced over my head, close enough that I could smell ozone and burned air. The second shot would be center mass. But the download finished with a soft chime, and I was already moving. I sprinted toward the emergency exit. The null imager clutched against my chest like a football. Behind me, more drones poured into the exhibition chamber, their targeting lasers painting red dots across my back. The exit door was reinforced steel, locked down tight. But Reyna had planned for this too. I slapped the magnetic charge against the doorframe, another piece of black market tech she'd provided. The explosion was more heat than sound, melting the lock mechanism into slag. I dove through the gap as the door buckled inward, feeling the blast wave push me forward into the alley beyond. Cold night air hit my face like a slap. I was out, but barely. The gallery's perimeter would lock down in minutes, sealing a 2-block radius, while corporate security swept the area. I had to get distance. My motorcycle was parked 3 blocks away, hidden under a maintenance tarp behind an old charging station. The engine caught on the first try. Electric, silent, invisible to most tracking systems. But as I pulled away from the curb, the weight of what I discovered settled on me like lead. Reyna wasn't just trapped. She'd been murdered. Her body was probably ash in some corporate incinerator, while her mind became part of their goddamn art collection. How many others were in there? How many people had Omnicorp digitized and stuffed into their mimetic advertisements? I rode through the empty streets, trying to process it all. The somniprints weren't just subliminal advertising. They were powered by human consciousness, stolen minds forced to whisper corporate messages into the heads of gallery visitors. It was slavery with extra steps, and it was legal, because technically, the victims weren't people anymore. They were intellectual property. 20 minutes later, I was home in my one-room apartment above a noodle shop in Sector 7. The place smelled like synthetic pork and industrial cleaner, but it was mine. More importantly, it was shielded. Thick layers of conductive mesh in the walls kept out most electromagnetic signals. Corporate surveillance had a hard time penetrating this far into the old city anyway. I set the null imager on my workbench and stared at it. The screen was dark now, but I could feel the weight of what it contained. Fragments of a person, of Reina. My hands trembled as I connected it to my secured terminal. The data transfer took forever. Terabytes of compressed neural patterns, memory fragments, pieces of a human soul encoded in binary. When it finished, I opened the first file. Her face appeared on my monitor, pixelated and ghostly, but unmistakably her. The same sharp cheekbones, the same dark eyes that had recruited me 3 weeks ago. But this version was screaming, trapped in an endless loop of digital agony. Jesus, I whispered. I scrolled through the files. Memory fragments. Her childhood in the outer colonies. Her first job as a corporate hacker. The day she discovered what Omnicorp was really doing. And finally, the moment they caught her. She hadn't been hired for this job. She'd been captured, digitized, and woven into the keystone. But somehow, in those final moments, she'd managed to encode instructions into her own neural pattern. A message in a bottle, transmitted through the very system designed to exploit her. The last file was different. A voice recording, synthesized from her neural patterns, but coherent. Her final message: Leo, if you're hearing this, then the plan worked. You found me, but I'm not the only one. There are hundreds of us in there. Artists, hackers, dissidents, anyone who threatened their business model. You have the decryption keys now. Use them. Set us free. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. The smart thing would be to disappear. Take the evidence to some underground journalist, expose Omnicorp's crimes, and hope the system would fix itself. But I'd seen Reina's face in that digital prison. I'd felt her pain through the null field feedback. The system wasn't going to fix itself. If those people were going to be saved, someone had to go back in there and save them. I opened my encrypted contact list and started making calls. If Reina had taught me anything, it was that some jobs were too important to walk away from. Time to assemble a crew. This has been Pixel Prison. Thank you for listening.